I tried so many different jobs. I wanted to do something that put back into society. So then I thought, education.
What challenges have you faced teaching kids in the UK versus teaching kids in the UAE here?
It's a lot less violent here.
Less violent?
In fact, it's listed as one of the unsafe jobs in the UK. I just think it's becoming a battle to try and keep kids sitting down, learning these things when they have access to so much knowledge on their phones and computers. And they know that the people they look up to flunked school. Like all the millionaires, they are not academic.
When you look at globally right now, all the different school systems that exist, is there one that is very close to your ideal?
Did you know that homeschooling is actually illegal in quite a few countries? And that's really interesting because it makes you think that there is a political agenda to education as well.
Are we able to name some of those countries?
Yeah.
So, on the phone, we did speak a little bit about education, and I was wondering if you can talk to me a little bit more about how you got started in education, maybe perhaps as an educator or even before that.
So I tried so many different jobs. I made a list and I have 40 jobs on that list, but there was a lot more actually.
Okay.
Everything from hospitality, working in pet shop, chefing, working in a bank, so many different sectors, so many different jobs.
Okay.
And then I realized that I didn't just want to be working for money and profit. I wanted to do something that put back into society. I wanted to have that feeling like I was contributing. So then I thought, education. So I entered a school as a learning mentor in the UK, which is basically an adult who's paid to help children remove their barriers to learning so that they can access things.
Barriers like what?
So, good question. So it could actually be, in my case, I was working as an English additional language mentor and refugee child mentor. So for them, a lot of it was language issues, but also maybe they had some trouble maybe in the foster home where they'd been put, or sorting out pastoral kind of things as well.
Okay, so probably children or kids with challenges not typical of the average kid in the school. Yeah. Okay, and how long have you done that for?
So I did that for 5 years and I qualified as a trainer, but there wasn't really anywhere to go career-wise with that job. Couldn't really, there wasn't a ladder as such. And I kind of liked working in schools. I'm the sort of person that gets bored really, really easily. So working with kids was something that it's just not boring.
Okay.
So it's the only job that I stayed in actually for that length of time. So I was like, okay, I want to carry on working with children.
Okay.
So then I got a TEFL course qualification, so I could teach English as a foreign language.
Okay. And you did that in the UK?
Yeah, I did that in the UK. And then I had like a baptism of fire. I decided to become a class teacher and I did that unqualified. Can you imagine?
Unqualified.
Yeah.
They let you do that?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't think they would.
I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming you need to be
obviously
certified.
I was checked out to make sure that I wasn't a criminal. But yes.
That's all it took. Background check.
Background check, the fact I had been working in schools. Also, I think the fact that I had this TEFL qualification.
Okay.
So I worked unqualified, and then I got a school to sponsor me to get my qualification. So I went into teaching through the portfolio assessment route.
Portfolio assessment
which a lot of people don't know about, which means you don't have to go on a full-time course. So you can earn money whilst you're training.
Okay. Sort of like a PhD and what students in a PhD program
is it so
do.
they just do it whilst they're on a job kind of thing?
Yeah, but the job's usually with the university itself. And so interesting. And so what grades were you teaching at that point?
So it's always been teenagers.
Teenagers.
From 12
okay
11 12 years
not
upwards.
The easiest I suspect.
Well, you say that, but actually I would find the really young ones probably more challenging.
Okay.
Because you can't communicate with them so easily, can you? And
full of emotion.
They might wet themselves and like have little tantrums. I wouldn't know what to do.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. And then so how long before you made your move to the UAE? I'm assuming you did that.
Yeah. So I did that in the UK. And how long had I been teaching? Maybe only as a qualified teacher for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Something like that. Then I was a literacy kind of one-to-one tutor in a school in London for 4 years. And then they decided to change my role and I wasn't really happy about that. So I went out for a meal and a drink to contemplate my future. And these two Arab women came past where I was sitting, and there was nowhere to sit. So I offered for them to join me. And they were from Dubai, and they said, come to Dubai.
Oh, wow.
So
way before it became famous to come to Dubai, I guess.
Well, it's 2016. So,
Okay.
yeah, probably just when it was beginning to become a destination for people. Yeah.
Okay. And is that when you started looking up Dubai and
So
thinking
I
of...
put my CV online, and I got contacted by an international recruiter, and they said, where do you want to go? And because I met these women, I said, Dubai. I'd never been here. I never wanted to come here even.
Okay.
And within 2 weeks, I was on a plane here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
Courageous, I should say.
Do you know, I was terrified. I was really, really terrified. And then I woke up the next day and I just felt excited. So it kind of flipped from terror to excitement.
Sort of like a nervous energy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you came to Dubai. How much research have you done before coming here, especially when it came to education? At that point, were you trying to find a job here within education? You still believed in the, education as it is and was at that time? Or before you came to Dubai, was it, did you have still questions about how the educational system ran?
That's a really good question. So when I was in the UK, I was obviously trying to help students to fit into the system. And I was having some success with that. I was helping kids who maybe wouldn't have passed the exams to pass the exams. So yeah, I guess most people just think education in school is here forever. It's always been here. It's always going to stay here. It's always going to be the same. We don't
take
really,
it for granted.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really think that it's, it can change completely.
Okay. And so what are some of the challenges you faced in the UK?
Increasingly bad behaviour in classes, I would say, which you can put down to, at the time I just thought it was, young people, because you can look back and apparently there's always been people that didn't want to be in classrooms. Mm-hmm. But now I really think they've got a point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you speak more about that?
Yeah, I really think that in the fifth industrial revolution, sitting at a desk on a plastic chair for 8 hours, wearing a uniform, is not really going to help you for most of the careers that are out there. Mm-hmm. If you're training someone to fit into the world afterwards, I don't think that's it. And also the amount of academics that you have to study as well. Most people don't need that level of academic knowledge. And if you do, you can just Google it. You don't need to memorize.
How much of this was a function of technology? Or was it back in the day, it was more general knowledge, and now it's very specific at a young age that it's it's challenging for the kids. And so how much of this is just the digital age that we're in right now? Where
That's a good question. But I think for some kids, they love it and it will be really relevant to them and their lives. But what we've got to look at is that's the minority. Research shows that 3 to 8% of a population is in academics. And then you've got some allied things where you would need to have that level of knowledge. But for most people, can you remember or can you use most of what you learned in school in your daily life?
Not really.
No, exactly.
No.
If you had to put a percentage on it, what would you say?
10% maybe at most.
Yeah.
I think I benefited from being in the classroom with the other kids and building the relationships and just playing more than opening up the book and reading things that are very scientific at a young age. That I found myself I felt like I wasn't in the right place growing up.
You say that, you like the social aspect of it, but are you aware of the bullying statistics in schools?
No.
So it's roughly about 50% of students would have been bullied or witnessed bullying going through the system. Okay. But, that's not really surprising when we put kids in a race and we say some are better than others. That's actually setting it up to be like a pecking order where you are going to get bullying.
So are you saying structurally there's some things that need to be changed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And what type of changes do you think need to happen? What do kids need right now?
I think they need to be given more responsibility and autonomy from a younger age. They need to have more ownership of their day, what they're studying, what they're doing. How they can express competency as well is very, very important.
Okay.
You know, sitting down in a high-stakes exam does not suit everybody. I've met brilliant students. They're really, really clever. There's one boy, actually, he hacked into the school IT system. You can always tell a smart kid because they hack into the system. But he couldn't do the exams just because he would get so frustrated because of the questions being asked, and he would start swearing, and they had to actually put him in a separate room to do all his exams.
Okay.
So, I mean, the exams are really only good for the kids in the middle. The ones at the bottom fail. The ones at the top get frustrated because they can't show everything they can do. So, yeah.
Okay. And what does a successful structure or environment look like for a student that feels that they're behind because there's other students that are just the system's working better for them, at least in the current structure right now? If we were not to change the whole thing, you know, what small changes can happen, do you think?
That's a really good question. So I would say to make it more flexible, to actually take the pressure off, allow some kids to come in part-time for academics and then go and do other things that are more in line with their skill set.
Do you think more variety maybe within the...
Yeah, absolutely. But this doesn't have to come from the school. Like, you can actually connect with local businesses or global businesses. And that's actually happening right now. Like, Microsoft is coming up with courses. Unilever's bringing in courses. Even Harvard actually has a load of courses which are free. So it should really be the responsibility of the culture to educate the child, not necessarily the institution of a school.
The culture to educate the child.
Yeah, so the businesses, the elders even can be brought in. You know, that's what used to happen. I feel like we've lost a lot of really good things, actually.
So you're thinking of the current day institutions, and it should be more community-based.
Yeah, like learning hubs, yeah.
Okay. And so depending on where the school is in, the neighborhood, the cultural values in a specific town or country, that's where it should start.
Yeah.
And understanding, for example, you know, in the UAE, traditionally fishermen, maybe not so much right now, but fishermen back in the day were the true businessmen here. And so if that's part of the fabric of society here, then the school should be reflective of that and what kids learn.
I'm sure young people would love to do that, actually, to learn the
Even
skills.
today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I was in one school, there was an Emirati girl, and she said her grandmother was a poet and really wanted to kind of teach her all the spoken word kind of stories and poems. But she said there wasn't enough time because she went to school all the time. And I was like, oh, that's really tragic, actually.
Okay.
When I think a lot of these exams and things, as we already said, that they learn in school are not relevant to those individuals and their lives.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that the first step is to educate the educators?
That's a really good idea. I think we're all educators. In fact, another thing I would like to see, instead of military service or as well as military service, why not do education service and actually go back and pay your school fees or pay your uni fees by going and teaching other people?
So giving back to the community.
Yeah, I think this is a really nice way of actually connecting with people as well, like we talked about at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Teaching and learning is it's a beautiful thing when it's not forced.
Okay. And, when you look at globally right now, all the different school systems that exist, is there one that is very close to your ideal system right now? If you're thinking North America, Africa, Europe, or here even in the UAE.
So I was a delegate at Rewired, which was like a big education summit. And I sat at the front through the whole thing and took notes. And I would say that you need to get this overall picture, and then you can pick this from this country, that from that country, and then you could actually come up with something that was really good. But that's not happening. What people are doing, they're trying to sell their own systems and be the best, which doesn't really help anyone. particularly, especially not the children. So the best really on offer that was kind of banded as being revolutionary and new was basically an IB system with electives. But that is not really that different, to be honest with you.
How so?
Because it's still putting children in institutions for 8 hours a day on plastic chairs under strip lights.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know as well about what happens to children if they're diagnosed with ADHD or anxiety. Like, these things are really serious, and it's a massive, massive issue, which is not talked about enough, I think.
Can you tell me more about that? Because I think more kids right now are feeling anxious.
Yeah.
I feel like medication is just given out easily, and it's become a cool label to say I have ADHD.
Yes.
Somehow, especially with like maybe business owners or entrepreneurs, young ones that are trying to get into business, and they go like, oh, this is a trait of success, having ADHD.
Yeah. So, I mean, ADHD is basically, it's an adaptive, a set of adaptive personality traits, which helped us a lot back in the day when we were hunter-gatherers and things like this.
Okay.
But obviously, sitting down for 8 hours a day is going to cause a massive trouble for people that are more agile and need more stimulus in their lives. But what's happening now is, like, I think it's a lot of children are getting diagnosed with ADHD, and it's getting more and more and more and more children. And you have to wonder, like, why is this happening? Also, the amount of drugs that are being given to these children. Out of those diagnosed with ADHD, about half of them are put on drugs such as Adderall and Ritalin. And out of those, so that's in America, for instance, that's about 3.3 million children are on prescription drugs. They can't make enough drugs for these children. They're having manufacturing problems because the raw materials for these drugs are not available because they're using so many of them. And 25% of those children will become drug addicts later in life because they've learned to take drugs. I met a woman recently, and her son had sadly died because he was on anti-anxiety drugs and he couldn't get the drugs, so he went onto the street to get them, and then it was laced with something else. And she was completely devastated. She lost her son. So this is not like a little thing. This is a very, very serious problem.
Well, for it to be out of stock.
No, for us to be saying that it's okay to give children drugs and for them to be sitting down on plastic chairs for 8 hours a day, like, we need to think, at what point are we going to say this is not okay? Yeah,
absolutely. And I meant that for it to be out of stock and being pushed, there must be some money behind it. Like, there's a incentive there that is purely financial.
Oh, absolutely.
And is not thinking about the betterment of the kids, right? And I wonder how much it's frying their brains at a young age. And, they do get addictive to this. And I wonder what withdrawal symptoms look like.
So I don't know the withdrawal symptoms, but I do know I looked at some graphs of, I think these were probably done for investors, of how many billions these companies are making. And, it looks like it's going like this.
The whole time.
Because more and more children are being diagnosed with this, and then they're choosing to go on the drugs, or the parents are obviously putting them on the drugs. So that they can study and sit down. Just for what? Like, for what?
And I wonder if, as a parent, where you're not very well versed in this drug or this condition, and you're trusting your doctor, you're putting your trust in a doctor to say, hey, I guess my kid is sick and they need this pill. It's pretty harsh and horrifying to think of, a parent not knowing the consequences and then realizing the consequences later on.
But, also not thinking that we've got any power to change the reason why the kids are being put on drugs in the first place. Do we have to? Do they have to sit in rooms for that so long every day? And do they have to memorize facts? And do they have to suffer the anxiety of high stakes memory recall exams, for instance? I mean, I've invigilated exams. I've seen firsthand, the impact that can have on some students.
Okay. It is unfortunate. And you kind of think and go like, well, the kids are the symptoms they're experiencing of ADHD, are they just bored sitting down for 8 hours? And that's why
they're totally bored, because actually teaching everyone the same thing at the same time is madness. You might have a brain surgeon in that class. You might have a TikTok star. You might have a farmer. So why would you think they all need to learn the same thing at the same time, at the same speed? You've got someone who's a visual learner. You've got someone who only learns when they repeat stuff 5 times. You know, we're all different, and we're different for a reason. We're unique, and that's what makes us an evolutionary marvel.
Yeah.
The fact that we can keep adapting because we are all unique. Why do you want to have everyone the same?
Yeah. Would it start right before a child gets accepted into school? Perhaps, maybe there's an assessment that needs to be done in terms of the kids' interests and things they'd be good at and things they might not be good at and struggle with, and making sure that the environment they're going into is set up for them. So
you're still saying school. Like, I'm not even thinking in the future that we will have school.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, schools were only started 150 years ago for the Industrial Revolution, which was very, very different to this Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
We've got AI now. All the kids, like, if you've been in the classroom recently, like, literally you set them something and they're on their phones or they're on their laptops getting AI to do the answers.
Yeah.
And you can't really stop them. I mean, because they go under the desks and do it anyway.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I do have nephews and nieces, and they tell me, like, did you study for tomorrow's exam? Like, they've seemed a little bit more confident than I was when I was younger going into an exam. So, so I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Okay. So I'm thinking still traditionally in terms of solutions, and what you're telling me, all these institutions and structures won't exist.
I don't think they'll exist. No.
So what is homeschooling then? Is that like gonna be the next phase?
Did you know that homeschooling is actually illegal in quite a few countries? And that's really interesting because it makes you think that there is a political agenda to education as well.
Are we able to name some of those countries?
Yeah, Germany.
Germany?
Yes. It's
Okay.
highly restricted in Finland as well. And France, it's highly restricted. Where else? I know in the UK, for instance, my sister came to visit me with her daughters years ago, and she was going to get fined for taking them out of school, I think 2 days early.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I guess on the surface level, is the government acting in a way where they say we want to make sure the best interests of this generation is taken care of, and we don't want parents to...
So this
is that the surface?
So this is what they're saying. And actually, if you go back in history, it maybe was true at some point, for sure, because kids were working, weren't they, from the age of 5 or 6. So actually saying, everyone's got the right to education and not to be working, that was quite, that was a good thing at that point.
Yes.
But actually now it makes you wonder, parents are not trusted in some ways to educate their children or decide how their children are being educated. It's put into the hands of the state. And yet how many parents come into school on a regular basis and see what's happening to their children? And they
don't have the time.
I can tell you what happens in classes. There's like a lot of the time it's crowd control. Kids are being shouted at, threatened, punished. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some things in schools, definitely.
Wow.
And that's not what the marketing and the branding looks like, because now all the schools, they invest a lot in their marketing and branding campaigns.
Yeah, it's a business.
Yeah, totally. And that's a very profitable business.
Yeah, especially here. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but holy, like I'm looking at some of the prices for an average tuition for I don't know, grade 5 or 6, and it's a lot of money. Yeah. And is it the lack of available schools and maybe the population increase over the past few years led to not a lot of chairs being available for kids or for parents to put their kids in school? Or is it by design, I wonder? Is it a little bit more monopolistic here? Are there a few... Because I'm not aware of the local scene here when it comes to schools. Is there only a few institutions that run schools here?
So most of them are for profit. Yeah.
Okay.
and they're making hefty profits. And yeah, I mean, the pay for teachers is getting less and less and less. What parents really need to ask if they're putting their child into one of these schools is what the class size is like, because that makes a massive difference to the quality of education.
Okay.
And that often doesn't happen. And you know, you can be paying a fortune and there could be 28, 29, 30 kids in the class. And that automatically means the teacher's just doing crowd control.
Yeah.
You can't get round and give individual attention to that many students.
And then you're going to have to implement like detention and punishment and whatnot in order to make sure they're in order.
I don't really like punishing students because that puts me in detention as well because I have to supervise them.
Logistically speaking, you don't like it too much.
No, but I mean, I think in the future we will have a much more flexible things going on. We're not going to be, hopefully, doing it like this.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of fallout. I mean, in the UK at the moment, there's a 2-year wait list for kids to get assessed for mental health. And
kids assessed for mental health?
Yeah. I've got a friend actually who works as a head of year in a school in the UK, and she has so many kids come to see her, and she can't get them out of having to do the exams or having to do any of the things that are stressing them out.
Wow.
Yeah. Unless they've got some kind of diagnosis. Even then they just get help or they get certain accommodations, and then they're waiting to get these diagnoses.
How is it in the UK? Do people pay for education, or is it?
It's a mixed system, yeah.
It's
so
a mixed system.
Most people would go to a state school, but there's an elite kind of private school sector as well. Okay,
and what's common there usually? Is it the public or the private sector?
The public is more common, and then there's a elite private sector. Yeah.
Okay. Much different than here.
For expats here, yeah, everyone pays for the private. I don't even know if you can go into a state school.
I'm not sure. I know they exist,
sure.
but
Yeah.
I don't think they're as common. I don't think it's common for people to go into them.
Yeah.
And I wonder why. Maybe there's a difference in quality, but then again, we're talking about quality and it's subjective, right? So
I just think it's becoming a battle to try and keep kids sitting down learning these things when they have access to so much knowledge on their phones and computers, and they know that the people they look up to flunked school, like all the millionaires and all the stars, TikTok stars and things. They are not academic, so to tell them you have to be academic to succeed, they know that it's not true.
Yeah. I wonder how much of this is also trying to prepare them for the jobs that exist today or in the future. And if you look at the jobs that exist today, compared to maybe 50 or 100 years ago, office work was not a thing, right? And so how much of this is maybe the schools taking a look at it and saying, well, it's important to educate them on AI. It's important to educate them on maybe programming or all the other things that translate into an office job, which we can talk about the pros and cons of that for sure. But we
can't actually predict anymore what jobs are going to be around in 5 years, probably even less. And it's well known that even students starting on degrees, by the time they get to the end of it, their knowledge might be obsolete, would have been overtaken by something else. I mean, a lot of students nowadays, they'll go on YouTube and things and they'll supplement what they're told in their education institution by the latest information, for sure, yeah. I think we need to redesign the whole way that we educate. We probably need to do it modular, and we probably need to have like a education passport given to us when we're young, probably encrypted or somewhere that, like on the Web3, there's something called soul tokens where you can actually, institutions could give qualifications and they can't be tampered with. So we need something that's completely kind of foolproof so that no one can kind of fake it. And then that can be and exactly, and that could be like a passport that you carry with you, and then that could link up to what employers are looking for as well. I think we're going to see a lot more skilling down. So we're going to see a lot of employers actually skilling up the population from a young age so that they have the skills that are needed. It's going to be a lot more interconnected. At the moment, you jump from school to uni, from uni, and then you're like, a lot of the time, it's well known that you just end up stacking shelves because there's nowhere for you to go because you're not actually trained to do anything.
So a lot of the practical skills that you need are not being taught, and you're graduating university at 22 years old, 23 years old, but you still need training wheels.
And it's not just the academics, is it? It's teamwork, collaboration. You need to actually have proof that you can do these things to show an employer as well.
Okay. You've mentioned something to me that I found not controversial, but very interesting. I don't think I've heard somebody say it that way, but you said that with the way kids are being taught, you think it's a human rights issue. It could be a human rights issue.
I think, I mean, at what age do we say that a human being has rights? I think that's an important question. I know that children's rights have actually only come about very recently. And I think we need to look at, when does a child have a right to determine what they do in their day as well? I feel like a lot of children are being forced to do things that they don't want to do and they won't need in their lives. Okay. And the only kickback they can really have is through behaviour or anxiety, depression, all these different things. That's the only way they can get out of it. And we're seeing those things go up. So I'm thinking they don't want to be doing this, but they don't feel like they can opt out.
Yeah. Okay. Modern day prisons for kids, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've set out a goal to revolutionize education globally.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's just me, but I definitely want to be part of the change, for sure. I feel very passionately about the rights of young people. And, having worked with young people as well for 20 years, they're brilliant and they deserve a lot more and a lot better than we're offering them, actually. And they deserve not to be like pawns in someone's economic game as well.
Do you think the current structure kills their curiosity and creativity, I should say?
It's been proven, actually, that it does as they go through school. But you can always find examples of schools that do some things very well and that some students are going to excel. But then you have to look at the options for everyone else. So what I would advocate is, if someone wants to do the traditional schooling that we have now, absolutely fine, leave them to it. But there's probably the majority that it doesn't work for. And we really need to be finding something completely different for them.
Okay. What differences or challenges have you faced teaching kids in the UK versus teaching kids in the UAE here?
It's a lot less violent here.
Less violent?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, in the UK, I got threatened to be shanked, which means stabbed.
Okay.
I had another kid who'd broken his arm threatening to box me. Had another kid jump on a table with a stick and threaten me. And I'm not even very confrontational. I was not winding these kids up. Okay. But there's a lot of kids in the UK who come from very troubled backgrounds. It's an aggressive society. Like the UK, took over 24% of the world was a colony at one point.
At one point, yeah.
So you can imagine the mentality, and they drink alcohol a lot as well. And there's lots of other issues. Okay. Poverty, things like this.
When you said it's more violent, I thought you were talking about kids between each other, but I never thought for you it wasn't safe.
Yeah, no. Oh no. In fact, it's listed as one of the unsafe jobs in the UK, definitely. Really? And psychological abuse as well. I mean, you can get sworn at, shouted at, everything by kids. Okay. And not a lot happens because it's actually quite normalized.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, that is unfortunate. And I wonder, I'm sure there's more societal issues that feed into it.
Totally. Totally, yeah.
You mentioned drinking and whatnot. That doesn't help. And I wonder what the statistics are on one-parent households.
Yeah, it's about 50%.
Okay. Do you think that plays a major role in the kids, shaping the kids' future, even before going into school?
It puts pressure, I think, on families when they have one income or they're on benefits. Definitely, yeah.
Because I always wondered, the success of a kid as they grow up relies on, they say it takes a village to raise a kid, and not only a mother and father. And so I always wondered how much of a role parents play in the success of their kids. And I guess you can define success in many ways. But
we tried to challenge that. I worked in some deprived areas in the UK, and what we ended up doing was opening up the school for adult education as well, because we realised exactly that without educating the parents, they were not able to support the children in education. Plus, a lot of the parents had bad experiences of school because they were not academic, and therefore they didn't really see school as a positive thing or a potential way out for their children.
Okay. And so how do we educate parents right
so
now?
You just start night schools, you enable them to actually retrain and get a job in a lot of cases, because a lot of them are unemployed, or to get a better job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking in terms of just access. Maybe them having access to information or counseling so that they're able to make better decisions for their kids. But I guess them getting the education themselves will probably give them the experience.
And that, I think right at the beginning we talked about empathy, and that is actually really important, that the teachers have got empathy and understand the backgrounds where these kids are coming from. Otherwise, they just think they're dumb kids or they're naughty kids. They're not actually. In fact, some of the brightest kids that I ever taught were from these deprived areas.
Okay.
And some of the, I don't know, I feel really proud of what they could achieve once they realized that I really believed in them as well. And
And that's all it takes sometimes, honestly, is just showing a kid that they're actually good enough.
Yeah.
If given the chance, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of kids are not given that benefit of the doubt, especially in the current system.
Yeah, or people, I don't know what it's like here, but in the UK, if you want to join the police, you have to have another job first, or other jobs first, before you can join the police.
Okay.
Because you need to actually be aware of different kinds of people in society. The same is not true of teaching, and I think it should be, because you can literally go from uni straight back into school without any kind of idea of all the different qualities you need to be good in different jobs in society.
Okay.
So the fact I did 40-something jobs means I could maybe see a kid in class, I think, okay, they're not very academic, but they got this, which is going to really help them in that job. So you can maintain, you can say, you're going to make it. You got potential. In fact, all teachers should say that.
Okay.
But the amount of students that come out who say, oh, the teacher said I was dumb, or, oh, the teacher said I couldn't do that, is horrifying. That should not be happening, really.
It's an uneducated approach.
Yeah.
And I guess, going back to educating and education, you got education not only through maybe books or the institution, but through the many jobs that you've done.
Yes.
And so by default, you are quickly able to empathize with the students and
or spot potential. It's not just always empathizing.
But empathize and spot their, understand where their potential is, right? And so that's a skill set that you cannot develop by reading books or being confined into a classroom for 8 hours. You have to go try. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm curious. My whole life has been kind of led by curiosity. So I could have just had an academic career. I actually got in to study law, and I could have just done that. But for me, that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just be in a career. So being curious about what I can do, what I'm capable of doing. And that includes things like working in a factory, things which people would say, why the hell did you do that? I learned stuff from it,
Yeah, no, fair enough. And so where did that curiosity take you, or where does it take you right now? What else do you do outside of education?
I'm an artist, a photographer, fashion designer. I recently got into AI music production because I'm a poet, and then I realized that I could have a much bigger potential audience through music. So I have nearly 24,000 plays, I think, on my songs at the moment.
That's pretty cool.
On SoundCloud with no advertising, nothing. So once I start investing in it, I think that's got a lot of potential.
Okay. And when did you know you were the creative type? Like, when did you know this was part of your personality? Was it later in life, or when you were at a very young age? Maybe your family noticed it and it was something within you.
So I remember someone saying to me, "Oh, you're an artist," and me like, really, no, I'm not an artist, because the only artists that I knew were like old men with grey hair, and so I didn't want to be like that.
Okay, it wasn't appealing to you.
I was like a little blonde girl. I was like, I don't want to be an artist, no. But
okay,
since kind of realising you don't have to look like that. Yeah, I would say I'm an artist, probably, yeah. Which is why I'm creative, which is why I can apply my creativity to anything, including redesigning education.
Okay. And do you feel like you're always trying a new project or opening up a new thing or exploring something new? Like, do you have some symptoms of ADHD, I guess? And you look at something appealing and you go like, oh, I'm curious about this, and you just dive headfirst into it?
I'm trying not to do that so much anymore, because I am aware that it's kind of, is it dopamine? What that gives you, there's some kind of hit you get from the excitement of trying something new, isn't there?
Yeah. And so you try to limit or like be conscious of it?
Yeah, I try and finish things. Or I try and make sure that at least I'm running stuff in tandem.
Okay.
Because otherwise what will happen is like you'll just jump and then you won't ever complete anything.
And you'll have
this education project, for instance, has been going for like 5.5 years.
Okay.
So this is not like something that I just suddenly thought, oh, I want to change education.
Okay. It's been in the back of your head. You've had a lot of conversations. You were a speaker.
Oh, actually, yeah. I was a speaker at edX MENA. More than that, actually. I worked with a woman from UNICEF, and we put together kind of a multidisciplinary lab group of people to actually work on this problem.
Okay.
And we had several meetings. We set up a company. In fact, I've had 3 companies trying to sort this out. But you know what it's like working with people. I don't know if you do. Like, there's always some ego issues, or someone lets someone down. Or I've been working with my present business partner for about 2 years. We don't have a current business. Well, we did have one, but we will still probably do something together. Yeah.
Okay. So it's still ongoing.
Oh, it's ongoing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering when did the switch happen between you being part of the system and then you realizing something needs to change? Was it an experience, or was it a aha moment? What was it?
I think meeting this woman from UNICEF, she was like, we should change education. And I was like, yeah, why not? And I'm one of these people who, a lot of people when they're younger, they're like, I want to change the world. And then they grow out of it when they realize how, or they're told that they can't, it's not realistic. But I never really grew out of it. So when she said that, I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
So yeah, she really inspired me.
And that was 5 years ago?
5.5 years ago, yeah.
5.5 years ago. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I for me, honestly, I find that over the years, I've stopped listening to the traditional way of going about education. I know I'm curious as well, so I try to read a lot of books and whatnot, but there was a point in time for me where I was doing certain certifications that take years to complete, especially on the finance side of things. That's my background. And I quickly realized that doesn't mean I'm smart, because I would meet the people that would have finished those certifications, and they're very difficult. They're like you got to be a good exam taker, test taker to complete them. And it's good on a resume. You'll probably get paid more. But I realized that I would speak to them and I would have an edge by not doing that and putting my effort into alternative ways of getting information or educating myself. And especially, I guess for me, it was the finance. It was the finance world, right? So instead of going into university and doing a PhD in it or another master's or whatnot, I would actually pick up the book of the best investor, an investor I really like, and I would read that book and think, oh, this is completely contradictory. Like, this is practical. He's telling me something practical, but it contradicts all these books I'm reading to study for the certifications.
The theories.
Yeah, so it's theory versus practical.
Yeah.
And I'd speak to somebody who has that certification, and they tell me that they're clearly talking from a theory perspective, but it contradicts, the investor that's managing so much money and like been able to be successful and understand businesses in a certain way. And so that created sort of skepticism towards how I wanted to educate myself. And I felt a sigh of relief. Like, it took me 2 weeks to finish this book instead of going in for 2 years to get into something that I don't really believe in anymore, and lost its value. So for me, that was the breaking point. And
well, imagine how children feel then in classes where they're looking at all this, especially like subjects like history maybe, where a lot of the information is it's written by the victors of the battles, or there's always some bias involved, and I don't know, I just feel like it would be so much more relevant if maybe they were finding out about their family history or something that was actually interesting for them, rather than this imperialist colonial kind of take on the world, which is kind of pretty much in a lot of curriculums. Even in English, for instance, we're still studying, they still study the same books that I studied back in school. And to be honest, a lot of them are depressing. It's
the same stories, probably. Romeo and Juliet is still there.
Yeah.
Midsummer's Night Dream. I still remember those books.
And you have to ask why. I mean, there's so many brilliant new things out there. And some of the students are brilliant writers, but they will not get to show that in an exam even, because the questions are not there. There's no question. They can't write a poem in any of the exams. They can't write a play. They can't do anything that shows any creativity at all in these exams. Or there's a tiny little bit where they write something, but it's not anything in relation to what they would do if they were a playwright in the real world, if they wrote for Netflix, if they wrote scripts for TV. There's nothing of that in these exams. And they're expected, they'll do it after. But actually by then, a lot of them they've lost it. Like, an 11-year-old can write a script, to be honest. A 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, they shouldn't have to wait till they're at uni.
Okay. No, I agree. And I'm going to ask you a challenging question.
I'm
going to challenge you a little bit,
no.
just to think outside the box, to bring out your creative spirit.
Okay.
We've spoken a lot about how the educational system needs reform. Can you talk to me a little bit more about the good things of the educational system right now? What are some of the positives of it?
So the positive is that a lot of people within schools, especially, and school groups, are realising this. So they are bringing in a lot of kind of add-ons. So the extracurricular aspects in schools are becoming a lot more important. And there's actually lots of companies being set up just to offer these extracurricular things. I worked in one school quite recently, and they had a whole robotics area. They had like a green screen area. They had a whole place as well with like aeroplane simulators. So they are realizing that kids do need extra stuff, and they are bringing it in. Unfortunately, though, they still have to do all these exams at the end. I think there needs to be a lot more variety to the ways and the means that kids can show competency in different areas as well. But I'm optimistic that it will get there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And on that note, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been very informative, at least for me, especially from I'm an outsider to the educational system, and I defaulted into just steering away from it instead of continuing into it. And I've sought alternative ways of education, and I think I'm going to stick to that from what you're telling me.
Absolutely.
But
that's the future, I think. Yeah.
I think so too, and I hope like whoever's listening out there can take a look at this conversation and benefit from it, or take that leap of faith as well and join you on this revolution.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Sofia.